What's up, boxing fans? This is TBE Boxing back at you again. Today's topic: Oscar Valdez shows humility and class in victory, ready to take on all challenges, including Shakur Stevenson. Let's chop it up and see what it's all about.
Got the money for minutes, pretty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? That life for riches, huh? That life for riches, huh? Pretty bitch, show me titties, huh? And I got the glazzy run up on me, I'ma make you get it. I'ma make you get it.
Okay, boxing fans, let's talk some boxing. We're gonna chop it up. Specifically, we're gonna chop up this Oscar Valdez victory over Miguel Berchelt. We're going to talk a little bit more about the fight, get into more detail. All right, so Oscar Valdez, as you all know, performed at peak proficiency in his defeat of Miguel Berchelt last night. It was a great performance by Oscar Valdez. I mean, I think we could safely say that was one of the best performances we've ever seen, not just from Oscar Valdez, but from anybody at 130 pounds, really. He put on a great show. He went in there, and as an underdog, by the way, many people doubted him, including myself. I didn't think he'd have the necessary skills to perform at the level that he did perform at, and I was 100% wrong. I mean, he displayed exactly what was needed to win the fight and then some. So we're gonna talk about it a little bit more. So the thing, I saw a couple of post-fight interviews with Valdez, and I was kind of impressed by his demeanor and the way he thinks about boxing in general. Okay, for one thing, he's a very humble guy. It would seem like he showed a lot of humility in his victory, and I thought that was a pretty good thing. I thought his mind is definitely in the right place in terms of how he thinks about boxing, and in general, and himself in boxing specifically. For example, he's constantly talking about improving, which is something that you know uh, should always be at the forefront of your mind as a boxer. Okay, but it's definitely at the forefront of his mind. He's always talking about how he can improve. He spoke about how he watches other fighters to learn and to try and learn something from them. So he's always watching and learning, which is a great attribute for a fighter to have. A lot of fighters don't have that attribute. They think they know it all, or they think, that they've learned enough, or they think there's nobody else that has anything to show them. But it looks like Oscar Valdez is not that type of a fighter. He's a fighter who's always looking to improve and always looking to learn, and I think that's a very admirable attribute for a fighter to have. You know, uh, in terms of his humility, I saw someone was trying to like compare him, his fight to something that Mike Tyson did, and he was like, "Oh, slow down there, slow down." But he was like basically trying to tell the guy to slow down. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. And he also, but which I don't, which I think that he doesn't need to be that humble. I think that if we look at his fight against Berchelt, I believe it was one of the greatest fights that we've seen, for a good time now. And I think, he should have no, comparing to Mike Tyson is not in terms of his performance for this fight and something that Mike Tyson might have done. I don't think it's out of the ordinary to do that, make that comparison. I think it's a good comparison. I mean, it was a great performance. I mean, one of the best that I've seen in a good long time, and I think that he was fantastic. He did a great job in this. So there, uh, I mean, humility is good, but I think that he can safely, he can we can safely say that his performance was uh, a great performance, and it does rate comparison against other great performances. Uh, another thing that I noticed that he talks about inspiring, other fighters and other people, in terms of how he performs in the ring. He also made reference to the fact that there was a gap between what he was doing in training, sometimes, and how he actually executed certain things in the ring itself, in terms of his previous fights. Okay, he said he'd work on certain things in the gym, and he wouldn't be able to do it in the ring, and that bothered him, and so he was working on that, which is never great. This guy is a very cerebral uh, fighter. I think he's a thinking fighter, and that's a great attribute again to have as a fighter. He's always thinking about ways to improve, and on his execution, and what's happening in the ring, at all time, which is good for a fighter, because that makes it easier for a fighter to make adjustments. And he did give a lot of credit to Eddie Reynoso. You talk about the fact that Eddie Reynoso hadn't gone back to fundamentals. Okay, he said that sometimes it got boring in there, but in the gym, working, but going back to the fundamentals, and repetition after repetition after repetition. But again, he said he listened to his trainer, he listened to his team, and the results speak for themselves, and which is another good attribute again for a boxer, the willingness to listen. Okay, even when you might think that whatever you listen to is not necessarily uh, you know uh, beneficial, but he said that not that he's saying that Eddie Reynoso's telling him to go back to the fundamental wasn't beneficial, but he said that he got boring sometimes, but he disciplined himself and just listened to what they said, and did what he had to do in there. So this guy is a guy that's willing to learn, and I think that's a very, again, admirable attribute, and it's gonna make it difficult to win against a guy like Oscar Valdez with all those qualities, because again, that's a very important quality. Willingness to learn is probably the best quality that a boxer has, and he seems to have that, in general amounts. I mean, this guy, is always talking about improvement, and watching other fighters. He talk about watching, I think, the Morales fight over 100 times. So this guy is definitely out there, looking at other fights, and trying to improve, his skill level. So he gave a lot of credit to Berchelt, okay, which again shows his humility. And when they try to compare him, make reference, to the other Mexican greats that came before him, he didn't really put himself out there as one of the Mexican greats. He said that if he continues in the way he's going right now, and continues to learn and to improve and to win, he could be mentioned among the Mexican greats. And that's again another astute observation by Valdez. It shows you that you know the win didn't go to his head, but I do believe that he gained a lot of confidence in this fight against Berchelt, because a lot of people was counting him out. Like I said, including myself, I thought he was going to lose, and I thought he was going to be stopped based on his previous performances. But as he himself said, in this fight, he came in there and was able to execute a lot of things that he learned in the gym with Eddie Reynoso on the team. Okay, he said that was the difference between this fight and a lot of his other fights. Where he wasn't able to execute what he learned in the gym, but this time he was able to do that, and he fought a smart fight as opposed to trying to, be stubborn and stay in there and bang it out when that wasn't because of pride or because of whatever. So the ability to execute what he learned in the gym was the difference in this fight, and the fact that he said he didn't try to be just go in there and bang it out. He fought a smarter fight. Move when he had to move. He did more boxing, which worked out great for him, and I think he should continue in that vein, because all this banging out business, it's all good. It looks good for the camera and all that, but it doesn't really help you as a fighter. I think, you should stick to the new style that he has developed, and, is continue to box more and, bang when you have to bang, but, keep it boxing. And, because the whole object of the game is to hit and not be hit. And he did a, he performed in that vein tonight, last night, I should say, very well. He put on a boxing masterclass in there against Berchelt, and I think that it worked great for him, and he should continue to fight in that way. Doing boxing as opposed to just trying to go in there and slug it out, mano y mano, and trying to prove something that doesn't necessarily need to be proven. Okay, so again, a lot of good assessment. I mean, he made a lot of a good assessment of his position on in terms of boxing in general, and how he performed. And he also mentioned, when they asked him about who he wants to fight next, he mentioned Shakur Stevenson. He went straight to Shakur Stevenson and said that, Shakur has been calling him out, and that he doesn't want to duck anyone, and he's ready to take on any and all comers. He's ready to fight anyone. Okay, now from my point of view, I would think that he wants to take, she should want to take it a little bit easy, relax, go home, rest up, and I don't know if you want to jump in there and another difficult fight right away. But I mean, he said what he had to say, and I'm going to take him at his word, because that's what he wants. We don't know what his team is going to do in terms of his next fight, but we know what he wants. And he displayed championship caliber by saying that, by saying, listen, Shakur has been calling me out. I'm ready to, to face him. I don't want nobody to think I'm ducking anybody. And so if that's the fight for me next, that's the fight I want. And, that's a great attitude again. It shows a championship heart by Valdez. Okay. And if that fight, whenever that fight happened, I think it's going to be a great fight, based on what I've seen from Valdez at this point. In this fight, there's also other fighters out there for him besides Shakur Stevenson. We have Jamel Herring, the other 130-pound champion. Okay, that would be a great fight, I would think. And I think that fight could be made, because I think that Herring is looking to establish his legacy at 130 pounds as well, and a fight against a guy like Valdez would go a long way in doing that. Okay, we have other guys at 130 pounds. Jojo Diaz just lost his title on the scale, so I don't know what the situation is from that end. Okay. But we have also Gervonta Davis at 130 pounds. He defeated Leo Santa Cruz to take the title at 130. But I don't know if Gervonta would would want to fight a guy like Valdez. The way Gervonta has been managed by his team, I don't think they want to put him in there with a champion of the caliber of Valdez. They don't seem to take a lot of chances over there at PBC when it comes to their fighters. So I would think that a fight between Valdez and Gervonta wouldn't be in the cards. Not because Valdez wouldn't want to fight, but because I think Gervonta's team wouldn't want him to put him in there with a lion like Valdez. That's just the way I think about it. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. So I guess that would leave Jamel Herring and Shakur Stevenson. Jamel Herring doesn't have any problem, I think, taking on anybody at 130 pounds. He's a fighter as well. Who, like I said, to establish himself. We already know that Shakur Stevenson is a hungry up and coming fighter, and he's been calling out Valdez for a while. So those are two good fights I think that could be made for Oscar Valdez in the near future without any issues whatsoever. So I'm looking forward to see what Valdez is going to do next, if he's going to fight any of those two guys, whether it's Herring or or Shakur Stevenson. As we know, Jamel Herring was supposed to fight the Jackal, but that fight didn't come to fruition. He supposedly he had some type of the Jackal had a hand injury, and so the fight was postponed. So we don't know when the fight is gonna come. When it's gonna be scheduled again. So Jamel Herring is out there right now. He was in training camp. But from what I'm hearing from Bomac, that I saw in the interview, Herring is still in training camp. We don't know when the fight, is gonna be put on with him. That's been postponed, but I would think that that would be a good fight for Valdez, as well as the Shakur Stevens fight. A great fight. Both those fights would be great fights, I would think. So again, I have to say that I'm very, the more I learn about Oscar Valdez, the more impressed I am. Impressive guy as a fighter, it would seem, and as a person. Okay, and his willingness, like I said, to learn and to learn not just from his team but from other fighters, is a great attribute. And I think that this guy, could be champion for a good long time at 130 pounds. Again, I would like to congratulate him on his win against Berchelt. We don't know what's gonna happen with Berchelt. Where he's gonna, what's gonna happen. They're gonna if these guys are gonna have a rematch. It's possible that there's a rematch clause in this fight. I'm not hearing anything about it, but we don't know if Berchelt would want to get back in there, so quickly again. In his next fight to fight Valdez again. That was a pretty brutal stoppage. He got beat up pretty bad in there, so we don't know, but we'll see what happens. But again, Valdez, put on a spectacular performance last night. Great performance. Great fighter. Humble guy. A lot of class. Okay, and I wish him the best in the future. Uh, I mean, the guy, Valdez, is great. I mean, I gotta say that I was wrong about my assessment of his performance, how he would actually perform. Okay, now I predicted that Berchelt would win the fight, as I said in my previous video, and I said that the way to win against a guy like Berchelt would be to fight in the style of a Shakur Stevenson, hit and not get hit, and make Berchelt miss and then make him pay. And I didn't think that Valdez would be able to execute on that level, but again, he proved me wrong. He did do that. He did the exact strategy that it would take to win the fight, and he himself made a reference to the fact of the gap between his training in the gym and his execution in his previous fights. And so it just shows how smart this guy really is. And in terms of thinking about boxing, that he recognizes that. And he was able to make the necessary adjustment in his training and in his performance in the ring. So again, a great fight, spectacular fight. Congratulations again to Valdez. That's all I have for right now. I want you guys to go ahead and subscribe to the channel, okay? Hit the like button so you can get the best commentary in boxing right now. This is TBE Boxing. That's all I have. I'm out.